Hey guys, for this interview, we had some technical difficulties. I lost about half of Ulric's video and audio. That being said, I'm still going to share the second half because it's just as good, if not better than the first. So, hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to the Zoom Out podcast. I'm your host, Tim Niemeyer. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting with Ulric Pattillo, content creator of Swan Originals on YouTube and host of the Money Matters podcast. Ulric, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Tim, it's a pleasure seeing you again, and I am thrilled to be on your podcast today.
I'm looking forward to this conversation. We met back at Miami of last year at the conference, and I met you through Mark Mariah doing the Declaration of Independence, monetary independence that we're going to talk about a little bit. So for those who don't know all of Ulric's backstory, I kind of liken you to a Renaissance man, a modern day Renaissance man, because you started out in my mind as an author, and then you have this content creation, and then I start to learn more about you, and I'm not gonna lie, you're kind of a baller, you know, very athletic. You got a lot of aspects about you. So you know how these podcasts go. We always like to kind of get into a little bit of your backstory, like leading up to Bitcoin. Would you mind starting us off just a little taste of kind of what got you to where you are today?
Yeah, my long story short, my father orange pilled me as opposed to normally the younger generation would educate their parents. Yeah. I think now I remember that. That's what kind of keyed in on us on our relationship. And so my dad taught very, very much a passionate, like anti-central banker kind of person, always studying, always looking at how, governments control their people. Back in, over 4 years ago, 4 to 5 years ago, he not sat me down, but talked to me in a way as like, hey, this is very important. I want you to pay attention. I need you to invest in Bitcoin. I said, Daddy, I already have Bitcoin. And by that time I had already purchased a little bit, which was, it was in a very, very low price. And then I was like, well, he said, no, you need to buy more. I was like, well, how much more? He says, however much you have. He essentially told me to drop my savings unit from a dollar perspective, and to essentially put my savings in Bitcoin, and I'll never regret it. And to this day I haven't. And even my sign-offs, for every episode I do, whether it's with Swan or the Money Matters podcast, I say, I am Sir Ulric, like my father before me, a tribute to both my obsession to Star Wars as a Luke Skywalker quote twisted, but also a thanks to my father who kind of put me on this path. And so that's the thing. I start off writing because I saw other people contributing to the space, and I'm like, I want to too. It's very important for the world. And so I started writing for Bitcoin Magazine because they were the only people who essentially took people with no journalistic experience. If you look at CoinDesk and all these other crypto periodicals and media platforms, they say, hey, we want you to be a journalist. Well, it's like, people come from all different types of perspectives and have all different types of background where they can contribute to the overarching narrative. And Bitcoin Magazine was the only one that really enabled that platform for.
Hey y'all, are you new to Bitcoin? You looking for a way to safely and securely store your Bitcoin? Check out the Bitcoin Advisors. These Bitcoiners are professionals that will provide you peace of mind so you can sleep soundly at night knowing your Bitcoin is safe. Remember to tell them Zoom Out sent you. So I used to watch a lot more basketball back in the day. Like, I'm considerably older than you, but let's talk Jordan years, right? So obviously the important question, I'm going to throw out some names and I want you to rate them. The important question: Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, Ulric Pattillo, Corey Klippstein. Rank those 5.
That's easy. Corey is 5th. Ulric is 4th. Kobe Bryant is actually 3rd. And right now, because I'm such an engineer, I do this breakdown of what it means to actually be great, and I follow this this stat called win shares. And I think that win shares can be broken up in multiple ways. First, you have regular season and playoffs. Secondly, people always celebrate players because either they have this body of work they've played for 20 years, cumulative, or while they're on the court, no one can touch them, and it's sort of a normalized version of what their contribution is, and that's dominance. And then you have these years where it's like, oh, remember when Paul Pierce was rolled out on the court in 2009 and he was dominant, no one can touch him. And he had all those years, or Wilt Chamberlain, he had all these seasons where he averaged 45 points a game. That's peak. And so when you take those three categories and then in regular season and playoff for peak and dominance, how I aggregate that on a spreadsheet actually, and I figure out who's actually better. It's great. I'm such an engineer.
A technician. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And LeBron James right now is better than Jordan. But I will say that after this season, because dominance is a normalized factor, which can go down the worse you play, in order to stay in front of Jordan, you have to have a caliber about you until you retire. And if you fall off, if you reduce your productivity, it will show. And so in my opinion, I think I haven't done the calculation because the season's not over yet, but I think that LeBron is going to be number 2 henceforth, unless he wins another title with him in the driver's seat.
So one more with him will supplant Jordan. Okay.
I think so. Or get to the finals and do really well. But generally, I think Jordan will be when LeBron is retired, it will be Jordan, LeBron, Kobe.
I should have done some statistical work, some research, because I don't have much to go on except for the 6 championships. But those years of dominance. So you being an athlete, I've noticed you've written and you've made a video even on athletes in Bitcoin. There has to be some just really rational explanation for why you're seeing a ton of athletes start to embrace Bitcoin. I'm just going to leave it right there. Where do you see? What do you see driving this drive for?
I think that Bitcoin,
athletes?
Bitcoin is a technology. And so when you think about technologies and how they're adopted, they tend to be adopted by people initially, by people who are testers, by people who are explorers, and people who have the bandwidth to explore. And so what you have is like Bitcoin in 2009. There's no way financial experts and, accountants and big bank people would adopt Bitcoin because they had this massively important job that kept them for 60 hours a week. And the same thing could be said for athletes. Athletes were day and night, they're lifting weights, they're shooting their shot, they're swinging their bats. And then you expect them to say, oh yeah, I've been a Bitcoiner since 2012. No, the people from 2009 to 2016 really are trailblazers, and they're cypherpunks, and they lived and breathed not even the money, not even the monetary value, but really the technology. And the monetary value was a bonus. Then you start getting into the 2015 to 2019 kind of time frame. And then you start getting into, okay, some of the really smart finance people are getting it. Some maybe the freedom advocates, the people who are like, they hate central banking, but they were too busy with politics. And so it's like all of a sudden they discover, it's like, wow, like I was so busy thinking about, this president candidate will solve all my problems. And really what it is this. And then after that, then you have the COVID timeframe. So a lot of investors were like, okay, obviously the money printing is a red flag. Where do we go with this? And that's where Michael Saylor discovered it. Michael Saylor and I happen to be, you think Jack Mallers and Money Matters podcast happened at the same time? Yeah, I literally discovered Bitcoin pretty much around the same time as Michael Saylor.
And before Saylor. Same here. And before Saylor.
And before the highly regarded Tim.
Right.
Here.
Right. That's I'm not great with any kind of investment ever, except for that. That's my claim to fame.
But then you have, and it's like in that time frame, it's like, these freedom advocates slash, now you have these, at the beginning of 2020s, you see, these smart finance investors, these smart investors getting into it. And now, in the depths of 22 post COVID, you kind of see, okay, this thing went down, but it didn't go down as much. And so now you see people who are like, okay, it's been a decade and a half, it's not dying. Maybe I should think about, it's gone up and down with higher lows for years. Now you start getting into people who are looking to capitalize on a smart trade. And that smart trade, the further you get from the core ethic of why I was there in the first place, the more the different social groups will expand and get into it. So now we'll get it. What do you see? You see athletes, but not only athletes, you see what do you call it? Not hedge funds, but where you have like a firefighters. Don Bay had his firefighters. Oh
yeah,
my
I know
gosh,
exactly
I'm
what you're
forgetting
talking
the word.
Not sovereign
Pension funds.
Yeah.
Pension funds, retirement funds, and these people, they're coming from all different types of demographics that aren't necessarily this. They're not gamblers. They're not risk takers. They're not very forward in like technology, but they're realizing this thing isn't dying. I should be involved and invested in, have attention to things that don't die, things that last, because at the end of the day, we all want to survive. That's why we want to pass our wealth. We want to pass our knowledge. We want to pass our stories to the next generation. Bitcoin is something that is passable to the next generation. In this world of consumerism, we are so short-sighted. We're so high time preference that Bitcoin is antithetical to everything we touch. From the clothes we wear, they're becoming more and more polyester. The food we eat, more and more additives and
less
toxins.
Nutritious, right?
And then you have Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is people can feel its resiliency. And so that matters to people of multiple demographics.
You mentioned time preference, and I have my theory on like why you see a lot of athletes, why you see a lot of now starting to get in there. It has to do with time preference. Like you can't go through a training season, training and off-season training, and go through the regular season, all that without like a goal in the future in mind, right? And not just time preference, but even proof of work. I may be painting with a broad brush, but like people where their profession requires you to put in hard work and not potentially get a payoff at all. Most players don't even win a championship, kind of idea. It's much easier for them, for lack of a better term, to grok Bitcoin. Am I painting with too broad of a brush? Do you see that too?
It's depending on how deep the rabbit hole goes, because remember, these people who are full-time invested in their craft, do they have time to go down to that bottom of funnel? And so proof of work, while you can talk about it from a cursory standpoint, and I go back to Natalie Brunell's episodes when she talks on Fox. She talks about proof of work and she mentions it. But if you're going to base your understanding of what proof of work is on a 10-second spill from Natalie Brunell, where she mentions it and then goes on to something else, that may be all people hear. It's hard to say, oh yeah, I believe in the philosophy of proof of work and it manifesting in everything I do. However, that's not to say that all athletes don't have time to figure out what that thing is. And I think if they have the right leaders, the right advisors, and they're talking about the reasons why it works, not just it's a good trade, I think that they will discover the symmetries with what they do with what Bitcoin is. Because I did, and I spent that time, I made that sacrifice to understand what Bitcoin is for the world, for myself. I'm like, wow, I see this in everything from my faith to my work to my practice with my sports. Bitcoin is just a conglomeration of a bunch of different ethics and and tenets of what it means to live and survive, and wrapped up in something that we can actually hold without anyone's assistance, without trusting anyone. And that's so important. And so I think as those athletes start looking into what exactly do I have 6 years later, this sucker is better than any other investment that I have, then they'll start looking at it and they'll say, oh my gosh, this is what I had the whole time. And I think even though you see all these athletes picking up on it now, I think it'll just grow exponentially in the next cycle. It will be a beautiful thing.
So I guess for my assertion, I should delineate between the Tom Brady doing FTX for, and the Russell Okungs of the world that deeply understand this and have taken the time.
Yeah.
In one of your videos, you were even mentioning about like all of these, like Damian Lillard, I think you mentioned, like there's a lot of players.
Damian Lillard, Darius Garland, Klay Thompson, Andre Iguodala have all had these
Iguodala's from Springfield, Illinois, hometown. Iguodala. Anyway, go ahead.
I have issues with a lot of the Warriors. We can talk about that offline.
All right.
But you see, like all of these guys, they had their advertisements. Steph Curry and Shaq. Shaq was avoiding leaving his house for 6 months because people wanted to sue him because he was advertising something to people to go on to FTX, and they got wrecked. But at the end of the day, they were there primarily because these very wealthy institutions, more wealthy than they were at any other time, they said, we need to get bigger. We need to get more people. And it's like, hey, we have $1 million to throw at some big influencers. Let's go after the A-list athletes. And so it's funny, like as I was doing my research, I realized, I'll find like athletes like at 2020, 2021. No, they were all within that 2022, that late 2022, 2022 time frame. And it's like, I can't believe this. Like all of these athletes picked up on this big advertising push. Whereas you see like Okung and the tight end from San Diego, I forget his name. But there's a hand-picked few that were like early, 21, 2020. But then you have this massive wave of people who are there for the fiat. And that's okay. People go through, I could have had Bitcoin in, 4 years before I finally got it.
Multiple
but I was
touch
too busy
points.
saying, I was too busy, saying, well, what's the next Bitcoin? And that's just a part of the journey. You're going to,
it really is.
Luckily I wasn't wrecked because I was just like playing, but these people, they weren't, I don't even think the Klay Thompsons, the Steph Currys, I don't think they were wrecked. They probably got most of their money, the Trevor Lawrences, probably most of their involvement in these cryptos were, it's like, hey, we'll give you some money if you become our spokesperson. And so it's like, of course I'll take that money. So I just hope that they remember that time frame and say, why is this thing still here? I thought it was a scam. And then
they learn opportunity, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So a little side tangent on this, the state of sports, because right now you have certain athletes reaching out and saying, I want to be pay me in Bitcoin, right? Mm-hmm. But then you also have Peter McCormick's soccer team. There's an Australian baseball team. I'm hearing of some soccer teams or football, in Europe. Do you see this idea of Bitcoin as a treasury asset for like the MicroStrategy approach in sports? Do you see that, or are there any certain developments in the Bitcoin space that you see happening in sports moving forward?
I think that the best thing that could happen for Bitcoin is when people start getting compensated in Bitcoin as almost like a bonus. I think when people are almost saying, and that won't happen until people start demanding it. When people say, hey, I don't really care about you paying me in this local currency. I really would like you to give me Bitcoin. I understand that I can buy it myself and I can go exchange it, but that's not what I want. I want you to commit to giving me this much Bitcoin during a certain period of time. And guess what? Maybe that means that's half of your salary. I could see someone, oh, you make $2 million a year playing for a baseball team. You're a low level player. It's like, hey, forget that. You make $10 million a year. And then you say, hey, I want 10% of it in Bitcoin. Right now or over the course of time, I just want you to have that. It's like, okay. And then guess what? 5 people asked for that. It's like, why are all these people asking for Bitcoin? We better put Bitcoin on our balance sheet. We better put Bitcoin in our treasury assets, because we're going to need this Bitcoin to compensate people, because that will make a difference between us and them. So when you think about bonuses and contract negotiations, those minor, it's almost like a fringe benefit. It's like, we won't only pay you $10 million, but we'll pay you $10 million plus 0.1 Bitcoin. And then it's like, no matter what that Bitcoin is worth, you're getting that 0.1 Bitcoin over the course of the season. You want 0.5 Bitcoin over the course of 2 seasons. And we're thinking, 0.5 Bitcoin, that's probably a lot of money, when I'm thinking this would happen. But it's like, we'll pay you 0.1 Bitcoin every quarter. And we also pay you, this amount of money this amount of fiat every time we pay you. Whatever the negotiation is, the idea is that using Bitcoin as a leverage for negotiations for athletes could potentially be a difference maker. And then it trickles down to regular jobs. Hey, you make $200,000 a year, you make $100,000 a year, we'll make sure we pay you 0.005 Bitcoin annually as well.
As an educator, you know what I'm saying? If test scores come in hot, pay me a Bitcoin. No, I love that idea, especially of incentives, because really, Bitcoin is just one big incentive machine, right? And to be able to say, I'm going to work harder for this, and especially for athletes, because you're one broken ankle away from your career being gone, right? So to have something that will not only, or historically has maintained, but grown in value, that to me, that means everything. I can totally see that moving forward. I love that idea. Well, Ulric, I think this is a great stopping point. You've given me a lot to think about, and I've really appreciated the conversation. I love how deep you are. I remember when I first met you, and I read a couple of your articles after the conference I went on. I was like, there's no way this is the same guy, because you write so maturely. I pictured you as like somebody 20 years older than you actually are. So, you got a lot of years to just keep
I'm letting
growing.
my grades show once in a while.
I feel you. Come on, rookie, catch up.
Not so fast. Not so
yeah,
fast.
Right. Well, yeah, man, I'm looking forward. I'll be in Nashville. You gonna be in Nashville?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we'll meet up there. Ulric Pattillo, thank you for joining me on Zoom Out. It's been a pleasure.
Zoom Out is great. I'm happy to be here. I can't wait to see it recorded so I can retweet it and show all my friends and followers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.